up a seat to the bar and join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tansen, Jess, and Maggie bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk. Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 12.15, The Gift of Insight, where we are covering the novel Blood Rites. My name is Tansen, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello.
And Jess.
When you love someone, you've got to trust them. There's no other way. You've got to give them the key to everything that's yours. Otherwise, what's the point? And for a while, I believe that's the kind of love I had. Thank you so much to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us keep doing what we're doing. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 21. Dresden is in shock at the revelation of Thomas being his brother and will not believe him. Thomas gives Harry more information on the Raith family and why Thomas wants to protect Inari, also sharing Margaret Lefay's involvement with their family. Dresden insists on proof by sharing a soul gaze with Thomas, in which he is met with the truth from his very own mother. Harry believes Thomas and offers to continue to help his brother with saving Arturo.
This is the kind of silence that I would expect from this moment. I would be reacting the same way, just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Shock. He is shooketh.
Extreme shooketh. And again, we come through this whole book with Murphy bringing up family and being like, you don't understand, and Harry being like, I've never had a family, I don't understand, and if it was up to me, if I was able to just talk to my mom, I would just this, so it primed us, for all the sad mom feelings that Harry's had this whole book to give, suddenly like, put a brother out there.
Right, that's true.
Your mother had another child besides you.
Wait, what? No, she didn't.
Crazy. So yes, this is quite the emotional gut punch, like, it's fair enough that Harry's like, nah, prove it, bitch, what the fuck.
Right. Speaking of punches, he totally punches Thomas in the face. Again!
Thomas is, from that promise to, punch him in the face, he's now, done it, 3-4 times. He's, really...
No, Thomas just stopped being such a dick.
Exponential.
Yeah. But, yeah, Harry gets all, I do get it, because it is a lot, and it's a fucking weird situation, especially after, but he doesn't even just take a moment to be like, what? He's pissed. Don't you, again, he feels like it's some kind of ploy, some kind of manipulation. He's like, don't fucking steal my mother from me. Don't fucking use that.
It's fair.
Bitch, not funny. Not funny,
well,
yeah.
And entities have tried to do that in the past to get under his skin, so it wouldn't...
I used to know your
wouldn't
mother.
Be a first time.
Well, the Fallen have done that. Lots of vampires have done that.
Yeah, so exactly. This isn't just oh, I knew her. Oh, I can give you some information. This was like, oh, yeah, she's totally mine too. And Harry's just not down for it. He's like, you can fucking do a lot of shit to me, but this is off limits. This is so out of line. This is not.
I mean, siblings that are raised together fight over their parents, so.
Mom loves me best.
Yeah, it is a dramatic moment.
And then they do typical. This right here should have sealed it for him. Because he punches him, and then Thomas kicks his legs out, and then they do the whole little scuffle on the... It's like, dude, if this isn't say you guys are brothers, what the fuck? Soul gaze, schmool gaze, that was, just prime right there. You should have been like, holy shit, we are.
I do like that Thomas is like, this is why I've been helping you this whole time. I've always known that we're brothers. It's like, how was I ever supposed to prove it to you?
Yeah, I knew. I've been trying to find a time. And Harry's like, kind of, he's like, again, figures like you're just saving up for something, like you just wanted something out of me. But
It is interesting, though, because Margaret Lefay being pregnant with Dresden was a big deal. Everybody knew about that. Everyone was aware of that pregnancy and that she was going to give birth to Dresden, and everyone was aware of Dresden when he was born. And as we'll come to find out in later books, too, like, he was very much on the wizard radar the whole time, right? People know about him. And obviously, his godmother is Leah. And so the fairies were obviously aware of his being alive.
Yeah.
But Thomas is, seemingly just, under the radar. Nobody knows about this other random son she had first.
But yeah, I do get that, though, in the sense that she did drop in and out. This is part of, like, her infamy and stuff like that, right? Is they're like, they didn't really know where she was or what she was doing or what she was up to. And
Or who with.
Or who, yeah. And, like, some people knew that she was, like, associated with, right? But I'm like, it also makes a certain amount of sense to me with, again, Raith, right? Wanting to keep people under control. And, again, that seems the very sort of like abusive kind of a thing, right? To control where you're going, what you're doing. And I can see him essentially having her on like house arrest for, a couple of years, whether it was like the entire time.
Well, as we learned, she
just
left shortly after Thomas turned 5.
Yeah.
So roughly was out of the picture for 5 or 6 years.
Like, right? Yeah. So like, was that whole time, or again, did she... once she was found out she was pregnant, blah, 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 would it have been a certain amount of, okay, keep out of the spotlight to not have people come after me or my kid or my whatever, right? Like, we don't know yet. But I'm like, I could see it a bit that way that. And also, as part of it, did they all know immediately from her pregnancy, or was it more just when he was born because of the whole...
It might have been just the birth, but we still know that there was
yeah.
no secret about Dresden ever being alive.
There was, yeah.
It's not like Harry Potter where it was like, oh, we thought you died that night, and then you just show up in the wizarding world on your 11th birthday. This is crazy. Like, no one knew what happened to you for those 11 years.
Yeah.
People knew where Dresden was the entire
Except
time.
Dresden. I just thought some nice guy came to adopt me. I didn't know it's because I was some, like, infamous child that he, like, plucked from the...
What?
Yeah.
Crazy.
But, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I can kind of... But, yeah, Thomas definitely, anyways, has a leg up here that exactly he found out about this some time ago or put together.
Well, essentially just always knew who his mother was.
Like, always knew who his mother was.
And then some random guy started walking around like, I'm Margaret Lefay's son. And he's like, oh, are you?
Well, yeah.
That means you're my brother.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that goes on to show that obviously all of the rest of the race would be aware of the parentage too. So
one would think, if any
oh my
of them
God,
wanted...
Lord Raith recognized me on sight.
Which actually is kind of an interesting point that while nobody maybe really knew about who Thomas was or Thomas, and that might not have meant much. But once Harry comes out on the scene, and exactly, because not that he exactly goes around announcing it, but he doesn't really make any secret of who his mother was. And again, for all those entities that exactly sort of anybody that knows Dresden knows who his mother was, you kind of surprising nobody else put this together sooner.
Right?
Or have
the fact that it's this big secret is just insane to me because, again, fine, whatever. The white vampires are going to go do what they want. Who cares about who he's having children with? Because it's probably... all sorts of women over the years. We're not going to keep track of that. And he's clearly not keeping track of that as far as, the outside world can
Yeah, other than his big
aware
picture gallery, but yes.
That was another thing, too. Laura's like, we live in a lot of places. We don't just all live in Chicago. But he's got all of his pictures of all of his wives here at the Chicago location.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right. And he's just made like copies of it.
I'm
going to have one in each place.
Well, again, and this is
I was gonna
why...
say he's got to have a hobby, right? He doesn't just paint like one portrait. He had like 5 years. He painted a bunch of portraits, and now there's one.
He's got one in every house.
But yeah, no, I know exactly.
But
right.
the Hellmouth
just so
theory
happens.
but it makes sense as to why everyone gravitates to Chicago, is if it's the ley line, central, capital, some of the biggest concentration. Then it's not that we care about Chicago, it's that we care about the supernatural. But that's not how the Dresden Files puts it.
They have houses all over, but they're just a good old homegrown Chicago-based family too. So that
Chicago's having all the fun recently, so...
Right. I'm like, yeah, we don't have all this stuff. Mexico is just like our summer home. It's not, Exactly. He's like, well, this is why I've been helping you. And he's like, I don't believe you. And he's like, I told you that too. Like, you weren't going to believe me either.
He's pretty much damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Yeah.
There isn't really winning for Thomas.
And he does this whole, like, I asked you to help Arturo outside of our family business. Arturo really does deserve help. But, like, really?
Well, even this doesn't make much sense because he gets to it. He's like, what did Lara mean about Arturo being like a personal family problem, and Thomas is like, I have no idea. I'm like, really? He's like, I just assumed she knew him from some, and I'm like, again, some of this is like, what?
Willful ignorance on Thomas's
I don't
part?
know. It's like you know so much about some things, and again, when you start getting these hints and start hearing, then you're like, oh, well, this kind of makes sense. Like, oh, he does like porn films, and like, oh, Lara makes sense. White court vamps are all about the sex, so then Lara's involved in it. So you start thinking, oh, there's a connection, and then Thomas is like, oh, I don't know.
They're just
And you're
friends,
like, well,
whatever.
it makes sense to me. How does this not make sense to you? I don't even know anything about this world. Like like things like that. It's a little bit like, okay, so it really was just for a complete and total random help him out. Because I feel like the more we find out about that problem, there's more reasons.
Well, that's the thing. The more we find out about the problem, it does make complete and utter sense. So for Thomas to be all like, I don't know, it seems like, okay, so you're still keeping secrets. Anyways.
And then, they explain the whole Inari thing about...
Right. And we find out the kid she's in love with is Bobby.
Yeah.
As well, we did hear on the phone call before, his name is Bobby, Daddy.
Yes. But but
Yeah,
he's
it's
like...
one thing to like try to like set up as like a crush and a hookup, but to like expect her to fall in love with
this is the
Bobby.
guy.
Be in love, and he has to be in love with her.
Right.
But, in all fair, I mean, I do like how Thomas puts it, because I still like using the word Twitter-pated all the time, too. But yeah, he's all like, Bobby, the macho violent kid. And he's like, give him a break. Like, how insecure would you be if you were planning on spending the day having sex on camera in front of the girl you'd like to ask to dinner? And yeah, much as Harry's like, it might shock you, it never. But I mean, in all fairness, like, we say this all the time. We still say this. I mean, like, Jess is getting up there. She's going to be 30-ish sooner than later. And she still complains that guys are like immature jerk. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, when you are like 17, 18, 19, 20, we can all look back and be like, wow, what we thought was like so cute, or that guy was being so sweet. We're like, wow, what an obnoxious.
Don't portray me as someone who's moaning about boys, okay? I'm just insulting them all in general.
I wasn't saying you specifically. I'm just saying even...
You did just say me specifically. You're like, Jessica's almost 30. And
yeah, and boys are still immature and dumb. I was saying in general, not just the boys that you deal with. But, like, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Sounded like you were quoting me.
Okay,
When
no.
you set that sentence up.
Okay, no, I did not mean to be quoting. I just meant you are of an age where in books and movies, people are supposed to be starting to get mature and like have real jobs at like 30. And I was like, no, like same thing. Kenzie just went back to school. She took a trades class where it's all guys, and there's a couple half decent, and most of them are like astonishingly obnoxious still for, and it's like, I get the guy that literally is 18 and just came out of high school, the other people that are like 24 and 25, and it's like, so yes, again, we were too, right? You look back at how you were and you were like, wow, what I thought was like so cute or so sexy, or me being like so seductive, and you're like, it's so cringeworthy now when you have a few years and a little bit of life experience. So on the one hand, yes, Bobby's a big old jerk and we're like, this is the guy she's going to fall in love with. But at the same time, from that perspective, right, exactly, you can see a bit where some of it's coming from, and you're like, yeah, okay, maybe he is still an immature dickhead. But again, they're both immature and very young and whatever, right? So like you say, their idea of love, might not be for the long haul, but might be just enough for what she needs to, if they think they are. And then puts her outside of Papa Raith's control.
Right. Thomas does go on to explain that the women of the White Court don't fare so well.
Yeah, it's pretty gross and sick and disgusting on so many,
And Lord Raith establishes that he is their superior. He overpowers them, pits his hunger against theirs. My stomach twisted. You mean he feeds on his own? I couldn't finish my sentence.
Yeah.
Do you need me to paint a picture? It's the traditional way to settle family differences in all the houses of the White Court.
So, and we did see...
So it kind of sucks to be a White Court vampire as a female.
It's gonna
Well, I guess
mess with your mind. Yeah.
As a male in this particular household, too, sucks.
I was gonna say,
You don't get to live.
any of the lesser hungers, lesser vampires, I mean, the way you get submission is not through blood and claws, it's through sexual submission.
Yeah.
Or just outright murder. But.
Yeah, any hierarchy or whatever. And I was gonna say, but you saw even like a touch of this before, because when Lara first catches up to Thomas and Harry in the parking lot, when she's like, get away from my little brother, when she doesn't back down immediately, Thomas starts, he's like, hey, Lara, look, right? Because Dresden is like, glad it wasn't directed at me, it would, right? So even Thomas is not above doing a little,
Not quite to the same extreme. But.
Probably not to the same extreme. I doubt he was gonna, mount her right there and get her, but he wasn't above trying to do a little whammy to What?
Ignore it. Just try and ignore it.
Sorry.
Okay, but this is the problem. This is what's wrong with this. This is exactly what Raith does to us. He literally, like, mentally and physically rapes his kids into submission, as well as the whole hunger against hunger and the whole... So, I mean, yeah, you have the whole vampiric...
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
It's different.
It's awful, but using the word mount is weird. That's why we're not liking what you said.
Mount. Like, oh, God.
Okay, well, I didn't know that.
Fuck.
It made me wiggle a little.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, well, sorry.
Do we need to insert trigger warnings for this?
Maybe? I don't know.
Caution, we use the word mounting.
Yeah,
Anyway.
forget the rape, that's fine, but she used the word mount in one point.
Essentially, that all of his sisters are super strong-willed people, but as soon as Dad enters the room, they become like abused little dogs.
They crumble.
Yeah, and yes, exactly.
Understandably.
And yes, they have a chance to get Inari out of that. And not a chance that anyone has ever tried to take before in this family, because that's just not the way things are done. Father will kill us if we go against him, and we warn our siblings what's going to happen. But Thomas is hoping that with Harry's help, they can speed along the process. And
a little bit like the whole, like, I think how hazing, continues and goes on, right? And you're like, well, I had to do it to get in, so now we're going to do it to the, again, that whole, like, I paid my dues, you paid, right? So, I mean, there's probably a certain amount of exactly. It's like, well, none of us got to that. We all survived. We all got whatever. So, yeah, between not wanting to go against him and also just that's the normal way, right? Even if you don't think it's the greatest way, nobody's like...
Well, that...
Thomas is reaching out to a lot of people because right before this, he tried to reach out to his sister, which obviously didn't go well.
Yeah, he got shot.
Right. So now he's like, okay, this is the time. This is the time, Dresden.
Well, I do wonder why Raith would have chanced Inari to go after Dresden, because Harry could have totally told her everything in that moment and been like, great, I have you alone. Your family's a bunch of fucking vampires. Let me tell you everything. Your siblings aren't allowed to tell you. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna tell you right now.
True, but I think that he was counting on what almost happened to happen. That
No, I get
she
that.
would befuddle and confuse Dresden before he had a chance to that,
And obviously it didn't happen that way. Dresden wasn't able to inform her, but I still feel like...
Bit of a calculated risk, really.
Well, it's, calculated risk, because I feel if you want... Well, as we said, episode or 2 or 3, I don't know when it happened, but all the bad guys in the world think, okay, it's weird that he was able to overpower that bad guy, but I'm more strong than they are, and it won't happen.
I mean, like
to me.
last episode, we were also talking about his house, but yeah.
I was like, was it last episode? But
I think it's come up a couple times, but yeah. Yeah, but I mean, again, probably that typical fatal overconfidence of, you know what I mean, right? Like, this is why, the evil overlord speech. Let me tell you about all my plans. Haha, oh shit, now you got out and you can stop me. But I mean, same thing, right? One of two things that, it's either witness, she's going to get him and it's not going to matter. Or if he does, he can be like, again, the gaslighting and the whatever, like, you're going to leave this crazy man, like, what is he talking about? Blah, blah, blah.
Inari's not just got to fight off her dad, though, without her knowing. She doesn't even know that's a fight she's in, though.
Yeah.
But the fucking curse is coming for her, too, right now. The curse was aimed at her last night.
Yeah.
And Harry had to redirect it. So it just seems strange to me that Harry was just like, okay, if you guys don't want to tell her anything, then that's, like, it's not even like she has to fight off vampires. There's other supernatural things in the world that are aware that she exists and she's getting in the way of. And Harry's like, all right, we don't tell her anything. All right.
But again, I think that the curse is definitely another, entity on its own, because Giselle isn't part of the, that is using a supernatural means, but hasn't, Giselle and the Bumblebee girl and the water skiing girl weren't targeted because they were part of the supernatural world. That's not why Inari was targeted.
I guess he's not giving the rundown to everyone in the studio, but I still feel like there's an extra level of protection there that's like...
Yeah, there could have, should have, would have, but I feel like this is the thing that he again, he was kind of like, why didn't you tell her? And Laura's like, well, that's Dad's way. And he's kind of like, okay, that's fucked up. But I think he's got enough on his plate. And yeah, when she comes in the next day, she's pretty much got the whammy going almost instantly, whether, consciously or not, right? Like, he just fucking was arguing with Thomas because he's like, well, you just ate your girlfriend and blah, 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 right? He just stomped off to his room, and then she shows, is he really in the frame of mind to be thinking like, let me sit you down? And
I get all of that. It plays off quite naturally. I'm not upset about that. I'm just saying you'd think Raith would be a little bit more nervous about having Harry run around his house, because here's somebody that is not beholden to follow the rules that you have set.
Yeah. Except that was...
And also, you know that they're half-brothers.
that's the thing, is that nobody else seems to acknowledge that fact or have put that together.
I know that, but Raith knows that. Raith is the one who knows that they are brothers. And he's still like, yeah, whatever, you guys hang out, talk about whatever you want, it's fine.
Yeah, I know, but this
Make this friendship
is what
between
I
each
mean,
other.
though,
Have this connection. You'd think he would have tried harder to separate them.
You would think, but this is my point, is that there's no indication thus far that he has made that connection either. But yeah, that's what I say, as far as that we can tell, is that Laura and Papa Raith and nobody else is, which is, as you say, funny that he's got this big giant picture and that everybody seemed to know who Dresden was, but nobody has made, I don't know, maybe it's
Again, I don't
is this that whole narcissism thing that it's like, oh, I painted a picture of Hattie and I just forget all about her.
No, I don't think that they have guests. I don't think that they're hosting parties and like random other supernaturals are coming in and seeing these portraits.
No.
I do think that Lord Raith fully remembers who the hell he had a child with. And you think he forgot. You think Lord Raith has forgotten.
I don't think he's forgotten at all who he has a child with. With Harry being the guest and accepting hospitality, does that put him a little bit like what is his...
Follow the rules.
Yeah, what is his obligation to not fuck around with telling Inari that right now either? I don't know for sure if that comes into play at all.
Knowing Harry, I don't think that he even considers... It's like... guest rights only extend as far as you think that they extend.
Well,
and Harry's like,
oh, Harry.
I'm allowed to talk. It's all I ever do.
Fair, but...
I can't be held responsible for the things I say.
There's quite a bit of stuff that's a little bit rapid fire too that's going on. Like he's had a lot of shock. He's angry.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
He doesn't actually have a lot of time with Inari. It's just kind of like, oh fuck, that just happened, didn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, again, I wasn't necessarily trying to argue to disagree with you per se, but just, yeah, I can see why also it didn't sort of, but yeah. So,
there's some really great quotable lines in this chapter, gotta say. So let me get this straight. You want me to help save the girl, overthrow the Dark Lord, and defend the innocents terrorized by dark magic. And you want me to do it because you're my long-lost half-brother who needs someone noble to stand beside him in a desperate battle for what's right.
yeah. Yeah, well, when you put it that way.
Look, I don't want to pick a fight with anyone or anything, but that seems like a reasonable plan to me. And Thomas, you should be in charge of all the plans from now on.
Well, okay, so Harry is like, you know, because he's all in the, like, you've got to be kidding me. This is so lame. This is just a big con. And Thomas is like, I know cons. Like, come on, that's what I'm all about. Would totally have picked something better than that if I was trying to, which is fair and valid, but at the same time, it gets you down that rabbit hole of, but I knew you were going to say, but I knew that you knew, so I knew that you knew that I knew that you knew that I knew, so I didn't tell you that I knew that I knew that you knew. You know? And it's like, how, what? You know? You're like, I knew you would be suspicious, so I came up with this really bad story because then it would sound real, because if I was really trying to con you, I would have come up with something much better. And
honesty is the best policy, ish.
Well, and Thomas's
Selectively.
Yeah. But he's clinging to it as much as Harry is like, fuck you, this isn't funny. Thomas...
That's the thing.
He's holding the line, though, and he's like, I'm not kidding.
Thomas's whole way of convincing us to be like, well, you know, your mom wasn't actually that good of a person, right? So maybe she could have, like, hung out with the vampires. If you really weren't telling the truth right now, how would that help your case?
Exactly, right? Yeah. You would want to upsell everything as much as possible, and this is the thing, too, because Harry, right, like, when Harry says, he's like, why are you telling me all this and whatever? Like, he's like, is this going to bring your dad down on you? You know, and that's when Thomas gets into the whole thing there, too, and he's like, well, he can't control me the way he controls my sisters, because his tastes don't run that way. And Harry's all like, well, small...
He's just going to kill me anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, Harry's like, oh, small mercy, and he's like, not really, because, yeah, exactly. It was like, he can't control us, he doesn't choose to, so then we all just die. At any point where it seems like we may be smart enough or strong enough to pose any kind of threat or dissent, then yeah, exactly.
He kills off all his sons.
So again, I kind of like, you know, the way he phrases it or whatever. He's like, you know, Laura, you know, he's like, well, as soon as she realized I wasn't like an ambulatory penis, then, you know, it's like, oh, wait, this guy actually does have some brains and he's just been playing dumb this whole time and not wanting to be involved in anything. Oh, shit, let me just kill him and get her out of the picture before he rocks the boat in any way and maybe causes trouble for me, right? Like, even Laura was just like, I was going to nip this in the bud right now. So, yeah, you can only imagine what Papa Raith is going to do with all of that when he finds out.
So we know that Laura is the oldest sister, but that doesn't mean she was the firstborn child, and it kind of doesn't read that she was the firstborn child either. You don't think so? It's, I don't know, just the description of the very first portrait in the room. I don't attribute it to Laura, that 16th, 17th, whatever her name was from last chapter. I just never attributed that to be Amelia Alexandria Salazar. I never pinned that to be Laura's mother.
Me, no.
I feel because it would have said, oh, it's a woman somewhat resembling Laura, or, oh, this is Laura's mom, by the way. Like, because there was just no comment about it, I just kind of assumed that's not.
And perhaps not. I guess I never really thought about it that much. I do feel like, and again, I don't know if this is just general throw out there or whether it does say somewhere that Laura is like around 300 years old. I don't know if that's, in which case this couldn't, because we already established that the 16th, 17th century was like, 400 or 500 years ago. So that would put it as older than Lara. But again, I don't recall for sure. But at the same time, I always just kind of did because, again, just with her being introduced as the oldest sister, I kind of took that also to mean like the oldest child. But you're right, that is not a definite concrete. There could have been a brother or sister or two before her.
Right. And in some ways, how she speaks about it sort of sounds like she's watched other people, like, not just like...
Well, she's
had to learn from other people's mistakes, which would kind of seem to me like older siblings' mistakes. Like,
potentially, exactly, right? Those that have gone before when she was too young to make those.
Which is how I took it to mean, is that she's watched some brothers try and rise above and been squashed.
Definitely has, but you can also, being the first and being a girl and all that, right?
Yes, I can see you're separated by some of that.
Yeah, but
Anyways,
I mean, that's what I mean, is she could have been sort of, again, it's like the oldest kid sometimes is the most obedient to the parents and things like that, because that's just how it is. There's just, and it's not until the other ones come along and they're like, well, shit, I don't have to do it because I've got an older brother. Or they're like, well, you let him get away with everything, so I'm, you know what I mean? Like things like that, where it doesn't occur to you, whereas the youngest siblings can see older siblings misbehaving, getting into mischief. So, I mean, same thing, like some of them learn to talk earlier because they've got siblings around, or talk later because their siblings talk for them or whatever. But, I remember Jessica jumping off the dresser at 2 years old, and because her 4-year-old cousin was, right, she had never done it before, but he comes along and he's like, hey, let's do this, it's fun. And she's like, oh shit, we can jump off the dresser onto the bed. And lo and behold, right, now she's learned that at age 2, whereas he had to find it out for himself at age 4 or whatever, right? So it could be either one of those things, right, where she could have just been not occurred to her to fight back, and then she'd seen other ones, so then she definitely...
I think completely outside of that is just that there have been multiple moments of dissent and multiple moments of, okay, kill them right away and be done with it. And that the way he deals with dissent from the boys and the girls is just completely different. He doesn't need to kill the girls because he can rape them into submission.
Yeah.
The boys you just outright kill. Either way, I don't think Laura was the eldest. I just feel like that was not.
That is fair. That is, yeah.
Even if all of them waited for 100 or 200 years to get their bearings before trying anything.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they didn't try anything until the last 100 years, and then he just killed all 5 sons at once. We don't know, but still. Thomas is the only son that is currently alive right now.
And even at his...
made it the longest.
I was going to say, at his ripe old age of 30-ish or whatever, we haven't specifically established yet how old. Well, other than I guess that or does he say here?
Well, we get a timeline right now.
Right now is,
this is where we get that. So it's a new timeline for Mummy Dearest. Margaret is in business with Raith, but things get complicated and she ends up with having Thomas. 5 years after Thomas is born, she's able to escape. After about a year, she meets Papa Dresden while on the run, and we get Harry.
So there you go. So 5-6 years older than Harry or whatever it's established there. So like I say, Thomas is 30-ish, 31, whatever he is right now. Older than that, because Harry's now older than 25, but... Yeah, and that's a ripe old age for the boys in this family. Is 30.
Which is crazy, because again, vampires you'd think would, be reaching maturity at like 100.
Right, again, or at least you think before they try any big power plays or something, because, I mean, again, I think we were talking about this a bit before with Thomas, when we were like, well, Thomas might feel like he's, mature, like his 30 years, like he hasn't lived 100 years yet, so that doesn't register until you've been there, but yeah, exactly, you'd think knowing that you have that long of a lifespan, you wouldn't rush into things like trying to squash Papa when there's nobody else.
You'd be slower
You'd
about
be like, I'm going to take a good 100 years to map this out. And
well, exactly. And on top of that, just I can see why living in that situation, 30 years is like, enough is enough. 30, this has gone on long enough.
That too,
but
yeah.
I feel like if you know that just laying low would grant you an extra 200, 300 years, you think you'd do that.
Yeah, and I think it is fair to say that was Thomas's plan, but I think Inari throws... the wrench into that too, because he couldn't, again, he was the youngest. He couldn't change anything for Lara or any of the other sisters or whatever. We'll get a few names at some point later on, but we don't know what any of them are called now. So, but Inari's the first one to come along after him where he's like, oh shit, I can change this. Like, I couldn't stop Laura from getting turned. She was already turned 200 years before I was even born, right? Where he's like, but now this is so fucked up. I can't stand by and be a participant to this continuing with Inari.
See, I disagree. I don't think it's anything to do with Inari. I think it's everything to do with Dresden. Thomas is the only one of the Raith children who have a brother outside of the mix, because Raith keeps all of the women under his control. Margaret Lefay escaped, is the only one to have escaped.
Yeah.
The rest of them presumably get fed on until they die, right?
Yeah.
So this is the first time that Thomas has just had another outside connection outside of his own family and is like, oh my gosh, there is another pathway that can help me. All the other siblings are just kind of like, yeah, this is what happens in our family. It's not the fact that Inari is the difference, it's the fact that Dresden is the difference for him.
But I think a little bit of both. Yeah, I can see definitely, but just
also, Harry's like
because
29 in this book, so Thomas is like 35.
Okay. But yeah, I don't know, just because he seems interested in, you know what I mean? If it was just about Dresden or whatever, you can kind of be like, yeah, whatever, the same shit's going to happen to Inari. But he does seem invested in getting her out and on a different path in the whole too, right? So I feel like, not that it, like, maybe one prompted the other more or whatever, but
It's definitely an influence.
I feel like, I feel like it's definitely
crazy?
part of the incentive there.
And this is a slight spoiler, but I feel like it's a safe spoiler, so I'm going to say it anyways. Margaret Lefay gave birth to Thomas on Valentine's and Harry on Halloween.
Right? How cool is that?
Crazy timing. Like, she did both of those on purpose. Right? Like,
Aha! No symbolism there.
plan out those pregnancies.
You can't have love. Let's just make you born on Valentine's Day, yeah.
Because this doesn't define you.
Right? That lady's crazy. And I know that you can choose when you give birth, because my stepmom did it, but it's still...
Okay-ish.
She did. She absolutely chose for children's birth dates. It worked out really well.
She's such a copycat. First she had to steal my ex-husband, then she stole my children's birth dates. It's really weird.
Pretty sure you didn't want him by the time.
I didn't want him, but I'm just saying, not only did she take that, but she then had children 10 years and 1 month to the day after my children. It's weird, both of them. Mm-hmm. It's just strange.
But it makes it really easy to remember dates in the family. My dad only has to remember 2.
Oh, dear.
But anyways.
So, unfortunately, Thomas knows no more information about Margaret and has been stonewalled for more information. And really all Harry can contribute is that she died delivering him. I was curious to look up maternal mortality rates in the States. It's on average, it's about 1,000 per year around around 2020.
Wow.
So, just in case you're wondering the stats. So it is entirely possible to...
Well, yeah.
It's not unreasonable.
It's not. And again, he was born 30 years before 2020 or whatever. So that too is how much different were they in the mid to late 70s or whatever, right? But yes, much rarer than it used to was, but people do still die in childbirth for whatever reasons.
So from the sounds of it, Harry now knows he has inherited his mother's reputation. Powerful and potentially dangerous, and that doesn't really play by the rules.
Harry's kind of almost starting to nudge a little bit on this. Like, again, some of this makes sense. Because, yeah, Thomas is like, I don't have more information because, like, I tried to find out more, but either nobody had it or nobody wanted to talk about kind of stuff after then, right? But he's like, if Thomas is playing it straight, you know, he's like, then I know a little bit more. He's like, why the White Council all watched me like I was Lucifer the Next Generation. You know, being forced to accept that my mother was involved in bad business. And it would mean that maybe I wasn't entirely alone in this world, that there might be family and blood of my blood. So this is a lot.
Harry just wants to be loved so bad.
I know. And just all of this is just, again, right, so fucked. Like, do you want to find out that the only family you might have is, like, a vampire when you've been... And, you know, Harry has said before, like, just earlier in these last couple chapters, you know, where he's like, it's hard thinking of, like, Laura and Thomas, because he's like, they don't scream like creature feature like the Blacks or even the Reds or whatever, right? He's like, if I didn't know Thomas was, like, this life-sucking vampire, he's like, I would go out and catch a few beers with him. Like, he is funny. I do like him, you know? So it's that thing of, like, wanting to, but at the same time of knowing that he is kind of on the monster side. And then, oh, yeah, you're kind of on the monster side because your mom was involved in the monster side. And... You know, whereas again, but Emily, but I have like
vampires are so capable of treachery.
Roller coaster of emotions here. Like, aside from where he was starting from, you know, between like the fight even the night before, if we back up that far, and then, you know, not getting a lot of sleep, and then Inari trying to sort of attack him and having to fend that off, to then Thomas being like, yeah, so bro, you know, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, so much coming at him so fast, so much to deal with.
Well, the solution he comes to for this is a little bit crazy because he wants to soul gaze with Thomas.
Yeah.
And there's no telling what either one of you will see in each other, right? There's no way to know that it's going to confirm brotherhood.
And poor Thomas has been dreading doing it, sounds like, because he's like, but you might not like me after you see what I'm at.
Which is fair.
Fair.
We know that when people see Harry, they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So you don't know what Thomas is going to
Yeah, and even Harry says exactly, same thing. Like, I don't know what you'll think of me after you see this, but yeah.
Definitely a lot of parallels between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both have issues.
Yeah.
But again, there's no way to know that this is going to confirm brotherhood between them. There's no way to know. Harry's just like, this is the best, most truest version of seeing your soul that I've got. We're doing this one way or the other. And to be fair, whether or not it confirms brotherhood or not, just whether or not Thomas consents to this goes a long way in whether or not
It goes
Harry
a long
should even
way.
begin to trust him.
Harry says, when we get further with other peoples, we get to see some of the overall trustworthiness, right? If there's nothing specific to that, is he going to get a sense of whether Thomas is lying to him, if this is just a con, or whether he can believe enough that it's...
See, Marcone was the smartest motherfucker in the world, because you can only soul gaze once. So getting that shit done early was so smart.
Now
I might do shit in the future. Let's look at each other today.
But that's only possibilities. It doesn't tell you for sure what's, yeah.
No, but still,
No, but that's
a
what I
Marcone
mean.
soul gazed in Stormfront versus a Marcone soul gazed in Battleground would have been two completely different visions.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's what I mean is that exactly, because it's like, because Harry sometimes says you can see possibilities of things or like what, right? So, because he's like, you do get a pretty good read on a person.
Still, 20 years of choices later will change a man.
Exactly. It does not, written in stone kind of a thing. It's not 100% ingrained. So, yeah.
So they both have the amulets from their mother. It's not just a magical doohickey. Apparently it was a little bit of a symbolism from Margaret Lefay. And she's like, here, one for you. I'm running away and I'll never be back home, Thomas.
Yeah.
And then here, leave this with my son after I die. Thanks so much.
I'm running away, never going to be back.
And then you sit down to do the soul gaze. And this whole thing itself is just like,
Ooh, it's heavy. So heavy.
Well, it's interesting, too, because Harry's like, well, prove it. And Thomas is like, well, I can't do anything to prove it. What do you want me to do? This is why I never try anything. And then, this is what they come up with for, it's like, all this, like, there's no proving.
why don't you just go to the hospital and get a blood sample? Make things so complicated.
What is this weird shit in this?
Ancestry.com.
23andMe or whatever it is.
Why is this blood glowing?
All right.
Just here, Thomas, spit on this.
So Harry sees Thomas as he would have been, and he also sees this creature as well, and the two are locked against one another.
He basically sees human Thomas.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's very interesting.
Still handsome, but less of the sparkle and shine.
Right, maybe a little nearsighted, like just the ordinary. So the human side and the other side. And all we ever see is the combined version out in the real. But very interesting.
What is
that
the vampire without the sparkle?
In here it is, separated into its...
A much better novel.
I really like the motif here, though, with, the white vampires are two entirely separate entities. There is the demon, and there is the man, and they're not the same thing. They are separate. One sinks its fucking clutches in deeply.
It takes over, like you say, this parasite or
and then
symbiote or
you
whatever.
can totally see the struggle that Thomas is really actively working against.
Not
And
to
the
give in
fact
to
that
them.
Thomas is struggling. When we went and saw Soul Gazes, or not Soul Gazes, the third eye image with the Fallen, a lot of those were like partnerships. There wasn't a struggle. They were enshrined in one another, working together. We want to be doing this. We're both two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Thomas, though, is clearly, I don't want to be on the same team as this. I have an issue with it. I am fighting against the instincts and the pull and the monster every single day.
I am more than the sum of my parts kind of a thing. Yeah, exactly. You have that animalistic, even like basic human, right? We're like, this is what makes us humans on the top of the chain because we have rationality and reason and whatever. We don't have to submit to all of our baser instincts and desires every step of the way, if I want some of Jessica's food, I have to ask to share. If she doesn't want to share with me, I don't get to just club her over the head and take it anyways. We've moved beyond that. We know there's a better way. We know we have to control that impulse, right? Whereas, it's there and it's very much a part of him. And obviously, as evidenced a few hours earlier, he needs and uses it. There's a lot of advantages to that. I can suck the last of my strength up and beat the shit out of this thing after I've been shot. instead of just letting myself die or whatever.
Well, it's the question between life and death.
Like, I do want to make use of it. There is a need for it, but at the same time, I don't just want to give in and be who my father is and just
There's
be
some
like,
nobility there that's been proven.
just want, take, have, It's like, no.
And if it's not heavy enough, Harry's not alone.
The first of the gut punches during this soul gaze. Margaret appears. She apparently has planned for the two of them to have a soul gaze at some point and to learn about each other through it.
It's essentially left a psychic imprint in both of them, which makes sense for Harry because you already knew you had another son out there, but how did she manage to get this onto Thomas after the fact?
Right. And it seems pretty powerful magic at that, because it's not only just like some kind of like recording, she is answering questions. So there's a consciousness
She's
there.
basically left a piece of her soul with both of them.
Right.
Before being able to fully pass on. And is it just sort of like, oh, mother's blood, I can leave a little bit of my psychic imprint with this forever? Or did she cast this spell in her final moments to go find Thomas and wait?
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, 'cause I don't think she necessarily 100% would have had to have planned this before she left Thomas, right? It could have been exactly after she found out she was pregnant. Oh, shit. These two boys are going to be siblings. Now I'm going to... And then again, whatever means, right? Did she find some way to get back physically to Thomas to do? Or again, could she do it all purely spiritual, magical world without having to, risk getting near him again? Or
a loophole through the Never Never.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Just on the other side of the veil.
Exactly, like how would she have, or again, simply as we've, heard and seen before, simply because her blood exists in both of them, could she simply have tied it through her own blood, which then automatically transferred a little piece of it to them upon this, that, and that happening or whatever, right? But you'd have to assume that, she obviously wouldn't have known about it ahead of time.
It's a fancy trick.
It's a fancy trick, but like you say, is it would have been at some point once she had known she was pregnant, then she would have had to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Yeah, like a spell cast at a distance is like, that still seems like an insane spell.
They talked about her being...
Yeah, she was an insane witch,
she
absolutely.
was a badass witch, and again, accounts for where Harry got a lot of this, you would think, potential, just because we know that Malcolm Dresden had nothing to do with the supernatural world, so it wasn't like Wizard and Wizard made a baby, so a lot of this between when and how he was born and who his mother was and all this kind of stuff.
Well, that brings up Kincaid's I'm as human as you are. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, well,
was Malcolm outside of the supernatural? Or did Margaret Lefay just like TARDIS up her body a little bit too much?
You say TARDIS?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of it out there everywhere.
I mean, Amy and Rory having sex in the TARDIS, got pregnant.
Oh, okay.
They fucked up their baby embryo.
Right.
Did Margaret Lefay just
environment
her ovaries by being weird with magic?
I see what you mean. The TARDIS thing herself. Yeah, okay. I was like,
if you're gonna, pregnant people aren't allowed to time travel, okay?
Fucked up.
I'm not saying she's fucked up. I'm saying her genetics got fucked up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Margaret goes on to tell him that the two have to take care of each other because she can't be there. She tells him that Thomas is tired because the demon knows Justine was his strength. And Harry asks why she didn't help him, which she said she did what she could. I made sure his father would endure a fitting punishment for what he did to us. You and Thomas? And you, Harry. Raith yet lives, but he is weakened. Together, you and your brother may have a chance against him. You will understand.
Yeah, so there's a nice little foreshadowing, what is this?
What could it be?
Piquing our interest.
What did you do to him?
What did you do? What does that? How?
And I like how half the time he asks questions, she's just like, "You have your own insight, don't you, bitch?" Answer the question.
Trust the Force. Trust the Force, Harry.
You see,
which is funny.
She wasn't able to reply to questions. She left most of the answers to be like, "You're smart enough. Figure it out on your own."
That's right. Vague, but. The all-purpose answer that whatever he's doing, I'm sure he can interpret something out of this, Like, I can neither confirm nor deny, but I'll just say something, that sounds smart and wisdomy. And
as they're talking about whether or not Thomas is ever going to be able to win the fight against this demon, she says, it may destroy him, but he will not surrender himself to it. He is of my blood. What does that mean?
Tough bitch.
She fought to the end, some way, somehow.
Yeah, exactly, right? She wouldn't be controlled and kept by Ray. She got out one way or another. And yeah, it's too bad that she couldn't take Thomas with her. Or, again, maybe she even knew enough about, because I know he was a kid. I was going to say it was too late or whatever but yeah.
I do like, though, that Harry is like, fuck that painting. This woman is gorgeous. She is so beautiful. She's full of life and vitality.
It is a really sweet moment there where exactly he's like just the still image, the snapshot portrait kind of doesn't do it justice of her actually. But the one beautiful thing is when he comes in and first sees Thomas and the demon, he's like, oh, I can't get rid of that now. But then he's like, but then my mom comes in. And that I can also never
Image
get rid
sealed
of.
forever.
Yeah, so I have to deal with all this shitty stuff I've seen. And I have
That's
to
an
deal with
incredible
Thomas's
gift,
demon,
really.
but he's like, I actually, get to see my mother's face and hear my mother's voice. So fuck that one
sure.
shitty
And then
photograph I've had.
They have such a touching moment where like they hold who,
Yeah, she reaches out to the other side
and she gives him the gift of insight presented as a small gem, which Harry accepts.
Yeah, and it gives him a headache, but hey, knowledge is pain.
That was a very sweet moment. I was like reading it and I got a little teary. I did.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing, he's like, are you real?
She takes responsibility for not having been there. It's not like she's just some like, yeah, I'm some big, badass, powerful witch and I made enemies with people. That's not my fault. Sorry. Like, she's like, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I'm sorry things went the way they happened.
Yeah.
It's not what I would have planned.
Yeah, exactly, right? Not what those regretting those mistakes of our youth and whatever seemed like a good idea at the time. And then, yeah, exactly, the other consequences that have followed Harry around because of it. And she's like, I couldn't do a lot, but this and this kind of a thing, right? So this moment right here, I was able to, anticipate and hope for and trust that at some point y'all will get a chance to. And then whatever other, thingy she may or may not have done for them that she... whatever their help and stuff like that. So yeah, exactly. It's like I tried to do something.
The unfortunate thing here is not getting to know what Thomas saw.
Always. And that is always the forever stupid Harry.
Right.
Just go stare at a mirror, Harry. Come on. Fuck. Inquiring readers want to know.
I don't care about what people see in a soul gaze with Harry, just the conversation Thomas would have had with his mother, because Thomas might actually still have a memory or two. 5 is like just about the age when you could start retaining that stuff, right? So it's like, to see your mom for the first time, knowing that she did basically abandon you. I mean, yeah, she had no choice to run away.
Well, and I feel like that's part of it too. I feel like she would have wanted to, but
I do get
much
why you
as
weren't able to
Raith
take him
would have
with him.
come after. Yeah, it would have been like 1,000 times worse if she had taken Thomas when she
Yes.
ran.
I do get it, but at the
yeah.
same time, being a 5-year-old little boy, and it's like, oh my god, my mother's just gone forever and left me here, and then getting to see her again after all this time, and just like have like the edge of like, oh, do I even remember what she looked like exactly, or do I remember what her voice was like, and then getting to see again, like almost sweeter for Thomas because he's got something to remember and forget, whereas Dresden didn't have anything to forget.
Yeah, he only had that one. So yeah, it's purely gaining on. But I was gonna say it works that way for Thomas too. It's not just the wizards that, right? Since this is a soul gaze, Thomas will always have this indelible image of his mother and that as well. And
Even for non-wizards?
Even for non-wizards,
Oh,
yeah.
great.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works, is that they also retain that. Wizards also get to see whatever fucking horrors there were in
Yeah.
whatever Harry's demon was.
Harry returns the pentacle to Thomas. I guess you can have this back since we are brothers.
Yeah.
Right, he's pretty convinced after this.
That's fair. That's pretty convincing.
Oh. This changes things. He'll still help out Arturo. It's the right thing to do.
And also, he's all like, I feel bad for bullying him about Justine. No, he didn't do it on purpose. Like,
Well, right. No, exactly. Seeing that more. Like,
The first-hand conflict.
actions and whatever being strong, right? It's like, it's all very well for Thomas to say he didn't mean to or this or that. But yeah, now he's got, again, that proof of how much he is struggling and fighting against that part of him, and then it's very sweet when they come out of it, they just like look at each other for a second and like they both look up at the picture and it's like, did you see her? Yeah. Did you see her? Yeah.
told me to tell you she loved me. She told me to tell you she loved you.
Yeah, like it's all very...
And Dresden goes a little bit more into like sort of back into detective mode and starts asking questions.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where to go next. And Harry asked, what did Laura mean when she said that Arturo's independent streak was a matter for the White Court?
Thomas is like, dunno. What? Yes, you
back to
do.
that.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I feel like... I don't know. But even as they're wrapping up that whole little thing, it's interesting because Harry's like, well, I still don't know exactly what this means and how I feel like this kind of changes everything. Like, I'm not saying it wiped the slate clean, but it does change things. And Thomas is like, well, not for me, dude. I already knew. It's like, oh, fuck, yeah, you're just having the confirmation moment or whatever that you get to tell, but you're like, oh, yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't a big revelation for Thomas. This is not, like you say, it does change things because now Harry knows, but you're like, oh yeah, no, it doesn't really change it. Exactly. You're the one.
I think it still does a little bit because he gets at least relief that there is a chance now that they can have a relationship.
Well, yeah, there is.
I mean, knowing that Harry knows is obviously a big relief.
But it's just,
Thomas has always been working in this.
Yeah, Thomas
Effort, pursuit.
From the day one that we met Thomas or whatever, right? He already knew that there was that connection. He was just waiting to see. So, I mean, yeah, even that is interesting. He's like it changes things some, and he's like, oh, not for me, and yes and no, and I don't know, and does explain some of it. He gets around Lara by just acting like maybe he knows something.
And it's funny because we've seen him do this where he's the sit, nod, look wise, and make vague remarks, which is like, which explains that first conversation that Harry overhears watches between Thomas and Laura, where he's like, "So you're in the game?" And he's like,
I'm not in the game. You just lost the game. It's like, wait, what? But yeah, I love how it's just enough, and Harry's like, what the fuck? That's like everything else is kind of fucked, but I guess if you're paranoid, and he's like, in the Raith household? Yeah, paranoid comes bottled on tap and in hot and cold running neuroses.
And we also learn why Raith doesn't have so many kids, because he can just kill people with one kiss.
right.
He doesn't necessarily always get to the whole
Powerful bit. Yeah, he doesn't even need to get down and dirty and go through the whole thing. He can just, you're it. Oops. You're not.
My bad. All right, no kids with this one. Takes him 20 or 30 years to rein it enough every time to be like, okay, all right. But reproduce. I've killed off too many sons recently.
But even just like he says, he's like, that was like his opening gambit. He liked to open conversations that way sometimes because I'm like, well, fuck yeah, I guess you're going to get the attention of everyone in the room where you're just like, hi, how are you?
Pretty indiscriminately.
I don't want to be the next one to shake your hand. Or, I mean, I guess maybe you do. Maybe kill that one guy, then you're safe the next. But yeah, that's pretty hardcore. Mm-hmm. It's like,
oof. It speaks quite a lot about him.
Yeah. So again, don't matter. You wouldn't like him when he's angry either. It's like you don't even particularly like him when he was being nice.
And interestingly, Thomas has only heard this through rumors. He's never actually witnessed it firsthand. Like,
which is, again, part of that supernatural whole, like, let the people talk, build up whatever the fuck they want to say about it. Why would we even try to refute
mystery
that?
And intrigue.
Well, and exactly right. Now, at a young age, you wouldn't think Thomas was being dragged off to all that much political bullshit. So again, in the last 10 to 15 years or 15 to 20 years or whatever that he would have been old enough to partake and be interested in that. Again, is this part of Thomas's plan also to just be like, yo, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, don't know about politics, don't care about politics.
Well, see,
don't include me, where you wouldn't have seen. Because, he's like, but Laura's seen it. Laura says for sure she's seen it firsthand.
We talked about it a lot in Grave Peril. Is like, you'd think eventually people are going to get mad that Raith is always sending Thomas in his place. And it's so disrespectful, but we're starting to learn. It's like, well, first of all, he only has the one son to send in his place. He's killed off the other sons. And, he's been getting weaker in the last few years. He can't show up to shindigs on his own because people might then notice that he's getting weaker. So it's this different power play of like, no, I'm so powerful and important that I'm not even going to dine coming to your thing.
Dania.
It's a win-win for Lord Raith because, like, if Thomas dies anyways, like, because he sent him. Well, that solves one thing.
Well, exactly. And I think, again, in the couple of situations that we've met him, as I think I said sort of then too, is that right, because you're like, people are going to get pissed off. And I'm like, Raith doesn't care he's being insulting. Like, that is not an issue for him, that half of it.
But I think even events that he would normally go and be like, yeah, sure, fine, I'll go be a king at your dumb bullshit. He's like, yeah, I can't actually let other people see me in case they notice I'm weak, so I'm not going at all anyway.
But I don't know, because that's the thing is we don't know. Like, yeah, Thomas is like, he's been losing it, but that's the whole point, is that we don't know exactly how weak that weak is, you know what I mean? Like, is
clearly when you're like Kiss of Death weak, or Kiss of Death strong, your weakness is still not weak.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is it just to the point that I no longer need to make these obvious displays because everybody knows now, right? So yeah, it starts building that intrigue, that seed of doubt that is it, because you just don't need to or because you can, and who wants to be the first to test that theory? You go shake hands with me. You go shake hands with it. You know, like, I want to know, but I don't want to be the one to find out. You know, like
Thomas says that he doesn't really know what to do, but Harry thinks he knows.
Harry's a detective, goddammit. Internet or not.
figure this out, and now we can figure it out together.
Right, and what a cute moment at the end. Like, he pulls Thomas to his feet and then acknowledges him as a brother. Like, even if it's not directly to him, he's like, he took it and I drew my brother to his feet.
Yeah, exactly, right. We're not thinking clearly, neither am I don't know what to do. I do. Offer that symbolic, metaphorical, literal
Acceptance.
hand of friendship, brotherhood, acceptance. Yeah, that was a thing.
It's a doozy.
It's and I know Tamsin is somebody who reads all the books basically brand new. I don't think you forgot that Thomas was Harry's brother, right? No. That's a well-known fact. Among all the fans, people don't really forget that one.
No.
So it's hard to think of just the oomph moment now, having, been aware of this series for a decade or longer, or however long it's been.
Definitely forgot about the soul gaze. It was like,
Yeah, the details of how they confirmed what went down. But yeah, again, same thing, right? Like, I'm like, I don't remember my exact reaction the first time I read that, How big a mic drop.
Right. It's hard to remember exactly just how crazy it was, but it is very crazy, actually, having come through this the first three.
Yeah, it makes an impact of some
very
kind
dramatic
or another when because like I say, while I might have felt there was like some, I'm like, I do not think that I necessarily was like, oh yeah, they're totally brought. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that. I was like, there's something going to be a thing, but
it's really become a fantasy novel now, because fantasy novels, and when you've got to start drawing the family tree and it's crossing over and you're like, but this person's like a brother to that person, and that person's also a sister to this person, that sister's like related to this person, and they were married over here. Like, okay, we're finally a fantasy novel. The family lines aren't easy anymore.
It says that. What makes it the truth?
Like,
less hard-boiled, more fairy.
When you're trying, actually, Monte Cristo's not really a fantasy novel either, but I had to look up the family lines for that one, and it crisscrosses like 45 times, and I was like, I'm so lost. And then Game of Thrones, I had to look up for that one. I was like, I don't know who any of these people are. And the annoying thing about both Monte Cristo and Game of Thrones is that everyone's got like 15 titles, and like they changed their names.
What was it in the books and Game of Thrones? Like, there's over 2,000 names in them.
It's stupid.
Something like, yeah,
it's crazy.
I don't even think of that many names.
So this is just like, let's muddy the waters. Okay?
The problem is you have 16,000 Johns, and then the reader trying to keep them all straight. John the first, John the second, John Snow, John Hatch,
John the Beheader, and John the
Beheaded, and John the fuck. Wait, I thought it was this guy. Oh shit, no, we're talking about his uncle.
Yeah.
What?
That's basically me. I always see Game of Thrones, and it's like, I can't believe, like, these were the three most badass siblings in the series. And I was like, they were siblings? Because one was in Westeros, and one was in, like, I don't know, any other place in Game of Thrones. There's so many names to keep track of, but there's literally sometimes when I was like, they're related? They're father and son? They're cousins? There were so many times.
Yeah,
like, I didn't
they
even
were
need
also
a map.
brother and sister, not husband and wife.
I knew that one. They made that one very obvious.
No one was forgetting that one, but yeah.
So yes,
exactly.
The Raiths and the Dresdens are connected. It's crazy. What? But just in one line. Only in one way.
Only sort of. Technically, the Raiths and the Dresdens are related.
The Lefays
and the yeah. Anyways, whatever, yeah. The thick plotting.
This concludes our episode 12.15, The Gift of Insight. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Thunder by it at your own risk.